This thing is actually quite different compared to what we have seen before. In this video, we're going to look at the design. I will compare the size to some of the other DJI FPV drones, what the footage looks like, and what smart features is actually worth it. I will also talk about where it makes sense and where the compromises really are. The first thing to understand about the Avata 360 is that it's not just another version of a DJI drone with a better camera with increased spec. The whole idea is different. The real point of a 360 drone is not that it just records everything around you. It lets you capture first and then let you decide afterwards what the shot should actually look like. That means less pressure nailing every framing decision when flying and gives you a lot more flexibility afterward. And for solo creators, this is where a drone like this starts to make a lot of sense. The 360 raw file is not the final shot. If you just look at the raw footage captured by the drone, it won't look good straight out of the camera. That is where the DJI Studio comes in, where you can reframe the footage, adjust the camera direction, and turn the captured clip into different kind of shots. So the capture becomes easier in some ways, but the workflow afterward becomes more important and more time consuming. On the other hand, you can create more versions from the same raw recordings, which increases the value a lot. It's important to point out that you need some computer power to handle these huge files. At least my 2017 iMac was struggling a lot. I had to bump down the resolution to SD to even make the files play back smoothly. You can export the reframed 4K footage, but true panoramic footage is also a possibility. And that will allow the viewer to pan around inside the footage if you decide to upload it to platforms like YouTube. And just so I don't leave this one unanswered, the basic workflow is actually pretty simple. You import the footage, you trim it, and then decide what you want the camera to do. For example, tracking a subject while flying by that otherwise would be pretty difficult to do smoothly with a traditional drone. I'm only explaining the basic principles here because the DJI Studio workflow that deserves a video of its own. So if you want that next, then write DJI Studio in the comments below. Physically, there's a few things that stand out right away. And this is where it helps to compare it against the Neo 2 or the DJI Avata 2. Because it gives you a much better sense of what category of drone this really feels like. As you can see, it's much closer to the Avata 2 than it is to the Neo 2. This also means that the drone is not a sub 250 gram drone. It is heavier than that, so it's classified as a C1. That means if you fly in the EU that you would need a A1, A3 drone certificate to be able to fly it legally. The same requirement as you already have with the DJI Avata 2. Similar, there's an integrated propeller guard design. If you need to swap the props, you would need to use the provided Allen key. Not something that I would expect happen very often as the propellers are nicely protected by these guard rails. And the image is created by two protruding lenses. And those front lenses, they are actually replaceable. And being able to replace the lenses, that's actually a smart move, because if you end up scratching one of these by maybe setting the drone down like this on the table or on the ground, then these scratches on the lens, they will be visible on the footage that are captured by the drone. So it's very, very nice that you can actually replace that part in case that you get it scratched. One thing to be careful about is handling the drone on the ground, because the camera can actually very easily tilt around. This is also where the included landing pad makes a lot of sense. So the plastic gimbal cover is definitely something I keep on whenever the drone is not flying. The camera can be tilted into a locked position for transport, takeoff and landing. During takeoff, the camera tilts 90 degrees into the 360 camera position. In 360 mode, you get full panoramic operation, as well as full coverage of the obstacle avoidance. Where in single lens mode, the drone is only shooting forward. Only forward cameras and LiDAR sensors remain active. You also got a micro SD card expansion, as well as 42 GB of internal storage, which is definitely relevant when you're starting to deal with high resolution footage. If you're looking to get the Fly More combo specifically, and that includes a surprisingly roomy bag, the drone, 3 batteries, a charging hub, the landing pad, the DJI RC2, along with the usual accessories and spare props. And that's also important for this video, because I wanted to focus on the flying experience using what you get with the Fly More combo, and not on every possible control method or accessory combination. But it does support the full DJI ecosystem, making it possible to fly it with the goggles and other compatible DJI remotes. So now the basic idea is clear. Let's step back in time when I flew the Avata 360 at Bellevue Beach under more challenging winter conditions. The RC2 setup that felt dependable, and the live view was clear. And as we're used to with DJI products, it lets you focus on flying instead of second guessing the connection. Another thing that I noticed pretty quickly, this is not a subtle drone. You definitely hear it more than you're used to if you're using the mini drones. And that changes the feel when you're flying this drone in public. It feels more present, more noticeable, a lot less ninja-like than DJI's smaller, quieter drones. I actually, as usual when I'm out testing new gear, had one of those strange public flying moments during the shoot. A guy out of one of the piers actually started throwing snowballs after the drone. Nothing dramatic and fixed by just backing away. The noise from the drone might be part of what triggered this reaction. A flight time under these conditions quite calm around the freezing point, you will get around 16 to 17 minutes in the air on average. But of course, the big question is still the image quality. And Bellevue was actually a very good place to test that. Bright sun, blue skies, snow on the ground, strong reflections, and a lot of contrast. That is a good day to test out what actually works. One of the things that I really wanted to test was the difference between the 360 mode and the single lens mode. Those two modes don't just look different, they also change the way that we think about a shot. The 360 camera is capable of shooting 8K at up to 60 FPS in HDR. You capture far more of the scene that you actually need. And that gives you much more freedom when you later reframe the footage inside the DJI Studio. In the single lens mode, you have 4K 60 FPS in HDR. You're making more of a framing decision upfront, and the result is much closer to a traditional drone workflow. One thing that I did notice in some of my shots was keeping the horizon exactly where I wanted it to be was not always as straightforward as I would have expected. It feels more like a regular drone put into FPV mode. And because of that, it can be difficult to keep the horizon level. And this can't be fixed with the DJI Studio. And I didn't find, as of shooting this video, a setting that would allow me to lock the horizon. So if you're aiming to get a shot like that, you would have to use one of the quick shot modes or shoot it in 360. So for me, it's not really about one mode is replacing the other. It's about understanding which one makes more sense. Another big part of the experience is that the drone effectively removes itself from the shot. The result feels more open, more immersive, and much less tied to the physical presence of the aircraft itself. I also shot in different color profiles, including the D-Log M. It's super useful if you want to protect the bright and dark areas of your footage. But it does require extra work in post-processing to make it look great. I also tested the photo side from the same position. You have 30 megapixel or you have 120 megapixel panoramic images. You can't watch the high resolution images directly on your DJI RC controller. For that, you need to pull them over to your phone and then view them in the DJI Fly app. You can zoom into different areas of the footage and then capture screenshots. The photo option is only available when you're choosing the 360 mode. I also wanted to see how useful the smart features actually are. So I tested a range of quick shots in different shooting modes. First the droney, where the drone backs away to around 60 meters while ascending and keeping me in focus, or the tower in focus. The next one is a rocket that is going up to 80 meters while keeping the tower in focus. And finally, there's a helix shot. And the fun part about the helix shot was that actually a naked winter bather snuck into the frame. I told her about the drone, but she didn't seem to care. I also tested the quick shot rotation. I had a few failed attempts while trying to back away, where the rotation was unexpectedly interrupted by the rear obstacle sensing. But flying forward, that worked as expected though. Spotlight, point of interest, and active track, they work more or less like you would expect. One thing to point out is that the spotlight mode has an additional mode that is called free. In free mode, you still keep the subject in focus and you can see the subject in the picture-to-picture view, but the main image shows where the drone is actually flying. Of the tracking related features of the Avata 360, this is the one that I find most interesting in practice. So who do you think this drone is really for? I think it makes a lot of sense for creators who want more visual flexibility, more room to experiment, and a safe or low barrier way to get dynamic footage without jumping straight into a much steeper FPV learning curve. I also think it makes a lot of sense for existing Avata users or people already familiar with DJI's style of FPV drones. If you want everything to be quick, directly, and finished immediately, the 360-based workflow might not be the right thing for you. And that's exactly why the traditional drones might be a simpler choice for some people. I also think it makes sense as a creative complement to traditional drones, rather than a replacement of them. So this was my take on the Avata 360. And as always, I will encourage you to go out and watch some of the other videos that have been put out there before you make an educated decision to get the drone or not. But if you decide to get it, there's of course purchase links in the description below. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then feel free to give it a like. If you didn't like it, feel free to press the dislike button twice. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you on the next one.